Music is not a straight line. It's a chaotic, ever-mutating organism that evolves through moments of sudden, violent change. In heavy metal's history, these shifts aren't always full albums or movements. Sometimes they explode from a single song. A 3-minute firestorm, a 7-minute odyssey, or a 2-minute instrumental can hit like a meteor, reshaping the genre's future. These are 15 songs that changed heavy metal history forever. 1. Black Sabbath. It is the sound of dread itself. A storm rages, a bell tolls ominously, and then it happens. The riff. 3 monolithic, descending notes that form a tritone, an interval so dissonant it was known in the Middle Ages as Diabolus in Musica, the devil in music. This was the world's introduction to Black Sabbath, the title track from their self-titled debut album. More than just the first song on their first record, it is the patient zero of heavy metal, the sonic big bang from which an entire universe of heavy music would expand. The song moves at a funereal pace, a stark and deliberate rejection of the upbeat, fleet-fingered blues rock that dominated the era. It was music born from the bleak industrial landscape of Birmingham, England. The sound of heavy machinery and gray skies translated into musical form. Tony Iommi's guitar tone, thick, syrupy, and menacingly heavy, a result of him using lighter gauge strings and tuning down to ease the pressure on his famously injured fingertips, was a sound nobody had ever heard before. Geezer Butler's bass, which he played with a thumping, aggressive style, follows the riff into the abyss, while Bill Ward's drumming is sparse and jazzy, adding to the unsettling, almost free-form sense of terror. And then there is Ozzy Osbourne. His panicked, nasal wail is not the confident howl of a rock god. It's the terrified cry of a mortal man witnessing something truly horrific. What is this that stands before me? So a figure in black which points at me. It's a genuine expression of horror reportedly inspired by a real experience bassist Geezer Butler had after reading a 16th century book of black magic. The song builds tension slowly, relentlessly, before exploding in its final section into a frantic, galloping riff that feels like a desperate attempt to escape the encroaching darkness. This wasn't just music about being sad or rebellious. This was music that sounded like genuine fear. It provided the entire genre with its foundational mood, its core aesthetic, its dark lyrical themes, and its very name. Every doom metal, stoner metal, and traditional heavy metal band owes its existence to the blueprint laid out in these 6 terrifying minutes. The deeper you look, the stranger it gets, because this one song didn't just borrow from horror movies. It created a sound that made you feel like you were in one. This dark, slow foundation was the first pillar of metal, but a second, built on speed and mythological fury, was about to be erected by the biggest band in the world. 2. Immigrant Song. It begins with a sound of pure panic, a ghostly, swirling hiss of a backmasked echo, and Robert Plant's chilling, wordless wail. Then the hammer drops. That relentless, staccato, galloping riff from Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones, locked in perfect, brutal sync with John Bonham's driving beat, is a thing of savage efficiency. Immigrant Song, the opening track to Led Zeppelin III, is 2 minutes and 26 seconds of pure, unadulterated aggression. For a band known for its deep roots in the blues and folk, this was something else entirely. It was a shocking blast of proto-metal fury that sounded like a Viking horde preparing for battle, and it provided a crucial ingredient to the heavy metal formula, the mythological warrior spirit. The song's inclusion was made even more jarring by the fact that the rest of Led Zeppelin III was a largely acoustic, folk-based affair, making this opening assault a powerful and deliberate statement that the band had not lost its heavy edge. Inspired by the band's concert tour of Iceland, the land of the ice and snow, the lyrics are a direct reference to Norse mythology, with talk of Valhalla, hammers of the gods, and sweeping a sailing to new lands. Plant's vocal performance is astonishing, a high-pitched primal scream that cuts through the mix like a battle axe. This was Led Zeppelin at their most direct and ferocious, stripping away the nuanced blues for a blast of pure energy. It all boils down to this one twist. The riff itself, with its charging, relentless rhythm, became a cornerstone of heavy music, influencing the gallop that would become a signature of bands like Iron Maiden and countless others. It proved that metal didn't just have to be slow and doomy like Sabbath. It could be fast, sharp, and exhilarating. It was the battle cry that launched 1,000 metal bands, giving them a new lyrical wellspring of ancient battles and myth to draw from. This injection of speed was a game changer, but another band, known more for pomp than power, would accidentally create a track so fast it broke all the rules. 3. Stone Cold Crazy. It's a breathless, frantic 2-minute and 13-second assault. Released on the album Sheer Heart Attack, Stone Cold Crazy is Queen at their heaviest and fastest. In an era dominated by the high-minded complexities of progressive rock and the swaggering blues of hard rock, this track was a shocking outlier. Long before thrash metal was a genre, this song contained all of its key ingredients: lightning fast, palm-muted, down-picked riffing, blistering speed, and aggressive, rapid-fire vocals. It's a chaotic story of a gangster's paranoid fantasies delivered by Freddie Mercury with a punk rock snarl that was a world away from his operatic theatrics. For a band known for its intricate arrangements and polished production, this was a shocking display of raw, untamed power. The song is a marvel of compressed energy. Brian May's guitar riff is a machine gun blast of notes, a precursor to the tight, rhythmic riffing that would define thrash. The rhythm section of John Deacon and Roger Taylor provides a relentless, driving pulse that never lets up, a rhythmic intensity that predicted the energy of punk rock, which was still a couple of years away from exploding. There's not an ounce of fat on the track. It's pure, distilled aggression. The song's origins actually date back to Freddie Mercury's pre-Queen band, Wreckage, but you won't believe what came next. It was the full force of Queen, with their incredible musicianship and studio prowess, that turned it into the proto-thrash masterpiece we know today. Metallica would later record a famous cover of the song, winning a Grammy for their performance and openly acknowledging its profound influence on their own sound. It was a Rosetta Stone for the burgeoning thrash scene, a song so far ahead of its time that it took the rest of the world nearly a decade to catch up. It proved that even the most theatrical and musically diverse bands could tap into a primal, aggressive energy that would form the core of metal's most furious subgenre. While Queen provided a blueprint for speed, a new supergroup was about to provide a blueprint for epic fantasy, taking metal to the orchestra pit. Stargazer. This is not just a song, it's an epic poem set to music. Stargazer, the centerpiece of Rainbow's masterpiece Rising, is one of the most ambitious and majestic pieces of music in the heavy metal canon. It tells the story of a wizard enslaving a population to build a stone tower from which he can fly to the stars, only to fall and die. It's a tale of hubris and magic brought to life by the commanding, powerful vocals of Ronnie James Dio. This song single-handedly established fantasy as a cornerstone of heavy metal lyrical themes, moving beyond simple tales of good and evil into the realm of high literature and mythology. Dio's narrative prowess painted vivid pictures, creating a world within the song that listeners could inhabit. The music, driven by Ritchie Blackmore's exotic Egyptian-flavored riff, is equally grand. The track features the Munich Philharmonic Orchestra, adding a layer of symphonic bombast that was unprecedented for a heavy rock band at the time. This fusion of metal and classical music would become a key influence on the development of power metal and symphonic metal decades later, with bands like Nightwish and Therion owing a significant debt to this pioneering work. But the song's most jaw-dropping moment belongs to drummer Cozy Powell, whose thunderous, powerful drumming especially during the iconic drum intro that lasts for nearly a minute, provides the song with its colossal foundation. His performance was a masterclass in power and dynamics, proving the drummer could be a leading voice in an epic composition. What people miss is this key detail. The entire 8.5-minute piece is a journey, building in intensity until its tragic, epic climax. It proved that heavy metal could be as grand, as complex, and as emotionally resonant as any classical composition. This epic scale was incredible, but another British band was about to perfect the genre's most important instrumental weapon, the twin guitar attack. 5. Victim of changes. This is more than a song. It's an 8-minute heavy metal opera that served as the definitive blueprint for the new wave of British heavy metal and beyond. Victim of Changes, from Judas Priest's album Sad Wings of Destiny, is a monumental track that showcases everything that made the band legendary. It begins with a slow, mournful twin guitar harmony before exploding into one of the heaviest and most menacing riffs of the decade. This use of harmonized lead guitars, played by the duo of K.K. Downing and Glenn Tipton, would become the single most important and influential guitar technique in all of heavy metal, copied by thousands of bands from Iron Maiden to Metallica to every melodic death metal band from Sweden. It gave metal a new language, a way to be both heavy and beautifully melodic simultaneously. The song is a journey through light and shade, a masterclass in dynamics that was a stark departure from the straightforward verse-chorus structure of much 70s rock. At the center of it all is the astonishing vocal performance of Rob Halford. His range is simply breathtaking, from a venomous snarl to a gentle whisper, all the way up to the terrifying, glass-shattering scream that closes out the song's epic midsection. He established the template for the powerful operatic metal vocalist. The song was actually a fusion of two separate, unfinished songs from the band's early days. A slower, bluesy ballad by Al Atkins Priest's original singer called Whiskey Woman, and a heavier, more aggressive track Halford brought with him called Red Light Lady. By combining them, Judas Priest created a multifaceted epic that demonstrated the genre's potential for dynamic, complex songwriting. And right when it seemed like the end of the slow, bluesy intro, that's when the real story started, as the main heavy riff kicks in and changes everything. The twin guitar harmony was a revolution in teamwork, but in California, one man was about to single-handedly rewrite the rules for the instrument itself. 6. Eruption. It's the sound of a revolution. When Van Halen's self-titled debut album was released, the track Eruption was a shot heard round the world. It wasn't a song with verses and choruses. It was a 1-minute and 42-second instrumental declaration that the rule book for rock guitar had just been set on fire. It changed not just heavy metal guitar, but all electric guitar playing forever. It begins with a flurry of noise and feedback before launching into a display of speed, fury, and technical innovation that was simply alien to most listeners at the time, making most other rock guitarists sound instantly dated. At the center of it all was Eddie Van Halen and his Frankenstrat guitar. He didn't just play the guitar, he attacked it, creating sounds that nobody had ever heard before. The dive bombs, the harmonics, and of course the stunning two-handed tapping technique showcased in the solo's final section were a complete game changer. This technique, which he had been perfecting in clubs for years, was suddenly exposed to the world, and it created a technical arms race among guitarists that defined the sound of 80s rock and metal. Suddenly, every aspiring guitarist had to learn how to tap, but it wasn't just the technique, it was the tone. From the outside, it seemed simple, until you dig deeper and learn about his famous brown sound, achieved by running a variac to lower the voltage to his Marshall amplifier, along with a phaser and an echoplex, which created a warm yet aggressive sonic storm that countless players would spend years trying to replicate. Interestingly, Eruption was never intended to be a track on the album. It started as a warm-up exercise that Eddie would play in clubs. Producer Ted Templeman overheard him playing it in the studio, was blown away, and insisted they record it. Eddie quickly knocked out a couple of takes, and a piece of rock history was born by accident. While Eddie Van Halen was redefining the guitar, another trio was redefining metal's rhythmic engine, fusing it with the raw energy of punk. 7. Overkill. That opening drum pattern is one of the most iconic sounds in metal. The relentless, thundering double bass assault from drummer Phil "Filthy Animal" Taylor isn't just a beat, it's a statement of intent. It's the sound of Motorhead, and it's the sound of Overkill. The title track from their album of the same name is a pure shot of adrenaline, a runaway freight train of a song that bulldozed the line between heavy metal and punk rock, creating a new, faster, and more aggressive hybrid that would directly lead to speed metal and thrash. It was dirtier than metal, but more musically proficient than punk, and in that middle ground, it created something entirely new. With Lemmy Kilmister's gravel-throated roar and his signature distorted Rickenbacker bass tone played like a rhythm guitar using powerful chords, Fast Eddie Clarke's greasy blues-on-methamphetamine guitar playing, and Filthy's revolutionary drumming, Motorhead created a sound that was loud, fast, and utterly uncompromising. Before Overkill, double bass drumming was a rarity in rock, often used for simple flourishes. Filthy Taylor turned it into a relentless engine, a constant driving pulse that became a prerequisite for nearly all extreme metal that followed. He wasn't just keeping time, he was providing a significant portion of the song's aggression and energy. The song is famous for its false endings, with the band stopping and then crashing back in twice, each time with more intensity, as if the song itself is too powerful to be contained. This became a signature part of their live shows, driving audiences into a frenzy. Overkill is not just unforgettable, it's foundational. And then came the part nobody expected. This raw, street-level aggression, born from English pubs, would inspire a new generation to take the themes of darkness and evil to their most cartoonish and influential extreme. This fusion of speed and punk attitude was potent, but a new band from Newcastle was about to add a crucial theatrical ingredient: pure evil. Black metal. The production is terrible. The musicianship is sloppy. The lyrics are a cartoonish vision of Satanism. And yet, black metal, the title track from Venom's album of the same name, is one of the most important and influential heavy metal songs ever recorded. It wasn't about being the most technical or the most polished. It was about being the most extreme, the most evil, and the most defiantly anti-musical band on the planet. In doing so, it gave a name and a mission statement to one of metal's most controversial and enduring subgenres. It was a complete rejection of the slick, highly skilled heavy metal that was becoming popular, favoring raw, primal energy over everything else. Hailing from Newcastle, the same breeding ground as the NWO BHM, Venom took the speed of Motorhead, the imagery of Kiss, and the satanic themes of early occult rock, and pushed them all to their most absurd and terrifying conclusions. The song Black Metal is a raw, chaotic blast of noise, with Kronos' guttural rasp, Mantis' jagged, primitive riffing, and Abaddon's wild, almost incompetent drumming. They rejected the polished musicianship of their peers in favor of pure, demonic atmosphere. At first it looked harmless, but the lo-fi production wasn't a mistake. It became an essential part of the aesthetic, a sign of authenticity and rebellion against corporate rock. The song's lyrics, "Lay down your souls to the gods rock and roll, freaking so wild, nobody's mild," created a new lexicon for extremity. Bands across Europe and beyond, from Bathory in Sweden to Hellhammer in Switzerland, heard this song and realized they didn't have to sound like Judas Priest or Iron Maiden. They could be raw, primitive, and evil. Venom provided the spark that ignited the first wave of black metal, a global movement built on the foundation of this one gloriously sloppy, evil song. While Venom embraced chaos, another NWOBHM giant was about to perfect the art of the epic melodic metal anthem, defining the genre for a generation. 9. Hallowed Be Thy Name. It begins with a single, somber tolling bell, followed by a clean, arpeggiated guitar melody that creates an atmosphere of quiet dread. Then, Bruce Dickinson's voice enters, telling the story of a condemned man in his final moments before being taken to the gallows. This is Hallowed Be Thy Name, the epic closing track from Iron Maiden's landmark album, The Number of the Beast. This song is arguably the single most definitive heavy metal anthem ever written. It is the perfect synthesis of everything the genre had been building towards: epic storytelling, dynamic shifts in tempo and mood, soaring operatic vocals, and the iconic galloping twin guitar harmonies. The song's structure is a masterclass in tension and release. It builds slowly from its atmospheric intro into the famous Iron Maiden gallop, a rhythmic pattern that has become synonymous with the band and a staple of classic metal. The narrative progresses with the music, moving from fear. The sands of time, for me, are running low to defiant reflection, to the final, frantic race towards the end. The track features multiple instrumental sections, with guitarists Adrian Smith and Dave Murray trading off some of the most memorable and melodic solos of their careers. Steve Harris's intricate, driving bass lines act as a third guitar, weaving complex counter melodies throughout the song's 7-minute runtime, a signature element of the Iron Maiden sound. Hallowed Be Thy Name became the ultimate live epic, a song that has closed out thousands of Iron Maiden concerts and is revered by fans as their quintessential track. More importantly, it became the undisputed template for the epic melodic heavy metal song, influencing countless power metal, progressive metal, and traditional metal bands for decades to come. Here's where it all takes a sharp turn, because as Maiden perfected this melodic formula in the UK, a new wave of American bands was about to take metal in a much faster and angrier direction. The British wave was peaking, but across the Atlantic, a new generation was about to unleash a new level of precision-guided aggression. 10. Battery. The acoustic guitar intro is beautiful, almost classical, with layers of intricate Spanish-style harmonies. It's calm, melodic, and completely misleading. For 1 minute and 5 seconds, the listener is lulled into a false sense of security, perhaps thinking the band had softened after signing to a major label. Then the sound of a distorted guitar fades in, the tempo builds, and all hell breaks loose. This is Battery, the opening track from Metallica's masterpiece, Master of Puppets. This bait-and-switch structure, the acoustic intro followed by a violent explosion of speed and aggression, became the definitive opening statement for thrash metal albums, a tradition that continues to this day. Battery is thrash metal perfected. It is a relentless assault of speed, precision, and controlled chaos. James Hetfield's right hand delivers a masterclass in fast, aggressive, palm-muted downpicking, a technique that he had honed to a razor's edge and which became the gold standard for thrash riffing. The precision and stamina required to play these riffs set a new bar for rhythm guitarists everywhere. Lars Ulrich's drumming is fast and complex, and Kirk Hammett's frantic, wah-drenched solo is pure fire. The song is about the assault and battery of sound itself, a fitting theme for a track that felt like a physical attack on the senses. This song, Oldolu, along with the entire album, marked the moment that thrash metal broke out of the underground and became a major artistic and commercial force. It was released on Elektra Records, a major label, yet the music was completely uncompromising. Battery was a declaration that Metallica was not going to soften their sound for anyone. Things looked normal until they weren't, as this song proved that music could be incredibly fast and aggressive while also being complex, well-written, and dynamic. Metallica defined thrash's artistic peak, but their friendly rivals were about to push the genre's speed and lyrical content into a terrifying new dimension. 11. Angel of Death. If Battery kicked down the door, Angel of Death burned the entire building to the ground. The opening track from Slayer's album Rain and Blood begins with Tom Araya's blood-curdling, high-pitched scream, a sound that signals the listener is about to experience something truly extreme. What follows is arguably the fastest, most violent, and most controversial song in the history of heavy metal. It took the speed of thrash metal and pushed it into a new realm of pure, unadulterated chaos, effectively creating a bridge to the even more extreme genres of death metal and grindcore. The song's main riff, written by guitarist Jeff Hanneman, is a frantic atonal blur of notes. The drumming of Dave Lombardo is a revolutionary display of speed and power, his double bass work setting a new standard for extremity that many still consider unmatched. His use of skank beats and frenetic fills created a template for extreme metal drumming. The dueling, chaotic atonal solos from Hanneman and Kerry King sound less like traditional guitar solos and more like the shrieks of tortured souls, completely abandoning melody for pure sonic terror. But it was the lyrics that caused a firestorm. Just when it all seemed figured out, Hanneman's unflinching, clinical description of the horrific human experiments conducted by Nazi doctor Joseph Mengele at Auschwitz led to accusations of Nazism and got the band banned from radio. The album's distributor, Columbia Records, refused to release it, forcing the band to find a new home and only adding to the album's forbidden mystique. Angel of Death was a pivotal moment. It drew a line in the sand, separating thrash metal from what would eventually become death metal. It proved there was no subject matter too taboo and no speed too fast for heavy metal. While America explored new depths of darkness and speed, a European band was about to offer a completely different path forward, one of triumphant, melodic optimism. 12. Keeper of the Seven Keys. While American metal was getting faster, angrier, and more controversial, something different was brewing in Germany. Halloween, a band that started as a fairly standard speed metal act, decided to embrace melody, fantasy, and triumphant optimism. The result was Keeper of the Seven Keys, the 13-minute title track from their landmark album. This song is the Bohemian Rhapsody of power metal, a sprawling, multi-part epic that single-handedly defined the sound and scope of the entire European power metal subgenre, offering a stark, vibrant alternative to the darkness of thrash and death metal. The song has everything: fast, galloping riffs, soaring twin guitar harmonies, quiet acoustic passages, and a huge sing-along chorus. But its secret weapon was vocalist Michael Kiske. His powerful, clean, and incredibly high-pitched voice was a world away from the guttural growls of thrash. He brought a sense of soaring operatic grandeur to the music that was completely unique at the time. The song's lyrics, a grand fantasy tale of quests and prophecies, established the epic, high fantasy lyrical tradition that would become a staple of power metal. It was unashamedly escapist and joyful. The wild pun is, Keeper of the Seven Keys was a radical statement. It proved that metal could be fast and heavy without being angry or dark. It could be joyous, melodic, and uplifting. This song became the blueprint for thousands of bands across Europe, from Blind Guardian in Germany to Hammerfall in Sweden to Stratovarius in Finland, creating a global movement that continues to thrive today. It demonstrated a completely different emotional palette for heavy music. As Europe embraced the light, the American underground was digging deeper into the darkness, codifying a new and even more brutal subgenre. 13. Pull the Plug. As thrash was reaching its peak, a new, even more extreme sound was festering in the Florida underground. At the forefront of this was a band Desolate Death, led by the visionary guitarist and vocalist Chuck Schuldiner. Pull the Plug, from their album Leprosy, is a cornerstone of death metal, a song that helped codify the key elements of this new, brutal subgenre: and showcase its potential for more than just mindless brutality. The first and most important innovation was the vocal style. Schuldener's vocals were not a thrash shout. They were a low, guttural, and inhuman growl. This style, designed to be as ugly and brutal as possible, would become the defining characteristic of death metal vocals for countless bands to come. The musicianship was also a step beyond thrash. The riffs were more complex, often dissonant, and played with a new level of technical precision. Schuldener's guitar playing was incredibly sophisticated, weaving intricate, melodic solos amidst the brutality, proving that technicality and extremity could coexist. The song's lyrical theme, told from the perspective of a person on life support, begging to be allowed to die, end my life, a life of pain I can't live on, was also groundbreaking. You might think that's all, but wait. This moved beyond the simple horror and gore of early extreme metal into more philosophical and existential territory, a hallmark that would define Schuldener's later work and elevate the lyrical potential of the entire death metal genre. Pull the Plug was a key evolutionary moment, the point where the raw aggression of thrash mutated into the technical brutality of death metal. This new wave of American extremity was powerful, but its roots can be traced back to a single, epic song from an obscure British band. 14. Am I Evil? It begins with a classical music quotation, Holst's Mars, the bringer of war, before launching into one of the most iconic, powerful, and influential riffs in heavy metal history. This is Am I Evil, the 7.5-minute epic from the self-titled debut album by the NWO BHM band Diamond Head. While they never achieved the commercial success of their peers, this one song would have a seismic impact on the future of metal, primarily because a young Lars Ulrich in California would get a hold of their self-financed, plain white-sleeve debut record and become a fervent evangelist for the band. The song is a masterclass in dynamics and riff craft. It shifts seamlessly from a slow, menacing, Sabbath-esque groove to a frantic, galloping midsection and then back again. Sean Harris's vocals are powerful and dramatic, telling a story of inherited evil and revenge inspired by the story of Hamlet. The song structure is complex and progressive, but it's all built around that central, unforgettable riff. It is, in many ways, the ultimate NWO BHM epic, a perfect blend of Sabbath-esque weight, priest-like technicality, and Zeppelin-esque dynamics. Its true impact, however, came when Metallica recorded a faithful and powerful cover of the song, introducing it to millions of fans and openly acknowledging it as a primary influence on their own sound. The real shocker was still to come. You can hear the DNA of early Metallica, the complex song structures, the dynamic shifts, the heavy, chugging riffs, and the use of multiple tempos, all laid out in this one song. Am I Evil is the bridge between the new wave of British heavy metal and the birth of American thrash, a song whose influence vastly outstripped its own fame. All these innovations in thrash, doom, and epic metal are crucial, but one final song from the dawn of the 70s arguably invented speed metal before any of these other genres even existed. 15. Highway Star. It's a song about a car, but it sounds like a spaceship. Released on the album Machine Head, Highway Star is arguably the very first speed metal song, a track so fast, so aggressive, and so technically dazzling that it felt like it had been beamed in from the future. It was a quantum leap forward, establishing a new benchmark for speed and virtuosity that would influence generations of metal musicians. In a world still dominated by the mid-tempo stomp of hard rock, the sheer velocity of Highway Star was breathtaking. The song was famously written on a tour bus in response to a journalist asking the band how they wrote their songs. Ritchie Blackmore grabbed an acoustic guitar and started playing the riff, and Ian Gillan improvised lyrics. Back at the rehearsal space, it transformed into a high-octane monster. Gillan's screaming vocals, John Lord's blistering, classically inspired Hammond organ solo, and of course, Ritchie Blackmore's legendary neoclassical guitar solo were all revolutionary. Blackmore's solo, with its use of arpeggios and classically informed scales played at incredible speed, essentially invented the neoclassical shred guitar style that would be popularized by players like Yngwie Malmsteen over a decade later. The Baroque-influenced harmony between the organ and guitar created a new, sophisticated language for heavy music. Highway Star was faster than Sabbath, more technically complex than Zeppelin, and more aggressive than anything else on the radio. It was the moment that the hard rock of the early 70s mutated into something else, something faster and more powerful. And here's where everything flips upside down. It was the birth of speed, the true origin point for power metal, speed metal, and shred guitar, proving that metal could be both a runaway car on the highway and a finely tuned classical machine.